Welcome to Change Bites with Rafaa Mustafa. Each episode features practical tips and actionable approaches to change management, grounded in real cases and delivered in small bites. A key takeaway snapshot is shared on the host's LinkedIn profile, so there's no need to take notes while listening. Let's begin today's episode.
Welcome to Change Bites. Today's episode is a two-part deep dive into how AI is changing the way we deliver change. Part 1 focuses on mindset and capability, and Part 2 is all about practical examples and tools you can use right away. I'm joined by Kieran Elliott, the AI transformation lead at PwC Australia. Kieran and I worked together during my time at PwC, and I've always valued his thinking and practical approach to change management. Welcome to Change Bites, Kieran. Do you want to kick us off?
That's such a kind introduction. Thank you. Happy to kick off. Yeah, thanks for having me on Change Bites. I've loved listening to the practical, I don't know how you get things as succinct as you do on this series, but that's something I'm not good at. So we'll see how we go during this conversation, whether we can keep it nice and tight.
I'm sure you're really good at it.
I don't know. We'll see. I can ramble on a bit. But yeah, really keen to bring to the conversation a bit of the experience I've had over especially the last year and a half, with exposure to the artificial intelligence technologies at work and how that connects to people. And I mean, of course, when we cross paths and we're fortunate to work together, we're really focusing on bridging that divide between technology and people. And I think that story continues, and it continues to get more interesting, more complex, I think, with AI. So yeah, let's jump in and chat through it.
Lovely to have you here, Kieran. This conversation will be extremely valuable for change managers who are already using AI and want to take their capability to the next level. So let's get into it. Let's start with mindset. A lot of change managers use AI in their day-to-day work. What's the mindset shift that helps change managers and people in general use AI for more than just speed?
I mean, I think with all technology, the key mindset requirement is curiosity, and that remains true with artificial intelligence and with all the different tools, whether it be GPT related or image generation, or I'm sure we'll explore the whole array of different tools that there are. But curiosity remains one of the key things. Now, that's an easy word to say, but I think change managers also really like a good framework. I think is fair to say, whether it's outcome, whether it's this or that. Framework really helps. So let me give a framework in the form of a ladder, I think is a good way to look at it. We're at the cusp of AI research. It's an interesting area because they create models, and then they're discovering the capabilities of those models. It's a very backwards way of technology development compared to coming at it with a problem that needs to be solved and then creating a solution for it. It all has to do with that sort of non-deterministic thing. But what it means for us is there's a potential for us to use AI to do more and more complex things. And so if we want to, as change managers, have a partnership with AI capabilities, it's many different forms, and of course we could get down into the weeds of the technical conversation, but I don't think that'll be too beneficial for people. If we just say, hey, we want to be partnering with AI to do better, but right now I'm just using it to do tasks. Well, I guess what I have found through seeing people, hundreds and thousands of people in professional workforces adopting AI in their day-to-day is that you are on the right path. That is absolutely, it's not the case that you have to stop being transactional and start thinking different. Like, no. What I've found to be true is you start simple and then build up the complexity. And that curiosity is how you figure out the next step. If you feel as though there's no next step, then you need to be more curious. If you've stepped on that next step, then you need to lean into the curiosity and find it. It's so, I mean, the example will be most change managers, I think, when they first start using it, they just ask questions, which is great. It hones in that some of those skills around what should I be thinking of next in this scenario. So just question and answer, which, this stuff we're doing on Google anyway. Then the next step that I've seen a lot of change managers do is, can you write my comms? Because let's be honest, I mean, the comms writing piece is something that it's an essential, critical thing, but so often as change professionals, we just, whether it's because we don't have enough people on hand or because it's how the business expects us to operate, we end up getting in the weeds of just writing comms all the time. So I think it's a great reaction that we see people going, how do I just use this GPT tool to create it? But there is more complex things. There's some real difficult problem solving that you can get it to do. And curiosity will help you to go, hey, can I get it to do this? And then give it a go to do it. And I think that mindset's important. There's a lot of definitions out there about what the behavior looks like when the mindset's right. What I think is a high bar, and it's not going to sound like a high bar until you start holding yourself to account. A high bar would be that every day you have 4 different AI tool sessions. But by session, I mean could be a conversation with with like a chat GPT type tool. It could be an image generation. So just 4 per work day. So if you think about that, that's every 2 hours you're doing something. And look, if we can even lower the bar further and say, let's just do this 70% of your work days. And trust me, it's still quite a high bar. And so I like to use that measure, and I've used that measure in a few different terms, so to go, hey, look how few people actually meet that. That's an opportunity which we can understand every 2 hours, having a full session to work through a problem, to do a complex task. Makes a lot of sense. So yeah, that's a big long-winded answer. I've warned you about my long-winded answers, but yeah, I think that's the right kind of mindset that we should be seeing. Yeah.
I like that framing. I think that thinking shift becomes so important as our work gets more complex. So seeing AI as a partner or a helper or even a junior person gives people more permission to experiment and explore areas where AI adds value beyond speed.
Just a quick follow-up, because I think there is a potential pitfall. We've become a little bit more aware recently, especially when you're on Instagram or Facebook or something like that, of AI slop. And I think that's what happens when we take a full end-to-end process, remove the human, and then don't check where things are going. And like it's pretty evident when you see it in some AI slop videos and images. You look at it and you go, what is this bizarre? There's fingers flying out here. It doesn't make sense there. It doesn't look right. It's just garbage kind of content. It's easy to see it when you're on social media. It's harder to see it when you're in a work environment. And it might be a 10-page FAQ document that you've got AI to generate, or maybe there's a certain professional services firm that sent something to a client and it's got incorrect citations in there. Like that kind of slop, it can happen when we leave our brain behind. So the mindset, I think, also needs to be judicious. It's so curiosity is good, but unchecked or just chasing the curiosity without taking time to critically think through how we're applying it, I think is bad. And I think that's just coming full circle to my point about, if you're currently using it for tasks and you're thinking about it in terms of, I have a task to do, let's complete that task, that I think remains the right way to think about it, rather than going into a state of allowing it to be a bit of a magical box and a bit of an ethereal partner. I think we need to be quite discreet and say, this is how I'm going to be using it.
Absolutely. Curiosity is great, but it needs to go hand in hand with critical thinking and real application. With that mindset in place, let's talk about the skills behind it. A lot of change practitioners want to build their AI capability, but aren't sure where to start. What core skills should change managers build to confidently use AI in daily delivery, especially the skills that matter beyond prompt writing?
Yeah, beyond prompt. It's a tricky caveat to that question, because prompt writing is very good, but I think it's what you do before you write a prompt is you got to know what you're trying to get it to do. And so I know that's a bit of a cheating answer, but I think that's really important is to pick up what I mentioned before, critical thinking remains really, really important. So think about, I want it to do this because, and here are the constraints around what I want it to do. Here's what I want the output to look like. If you've got that thinking, then I think good change managers, we're great at writing comms. We know the learning and development world so well. And so a lot of us have even dabbled in that area, such as yourself and I, and we know how to build out learning objectives. Now, that skill is so close to prompt writing, in my opinion, because you got to use specific language and steer it just right. So I think that critical thinking is the core skill. And what does that mean? Well, it means that we have to understand what are the kind of ways in which the models behave, and then how do I instruct clearly with the right context to ensure that those behaviors are managed. That's really, it's as simple as that. Or I could, a lot of people talk about it in far more complex terms than that, but it's as simple as that. Just clear direction. And what does that require? Critical thinking requires understanding that if I don't, the model's just trying to please me. So if I don't be specific and say, no, this is what I want, then it's just going to do what it thinks is going to please us. And why is it going to do that? Because that's how it's built through this training process, and like it's just the nature of what it is. So yeah, I'd say that the additional skill I'd say as well, or sort of what's the things that we can do to get confident about daily delivery, is to get obsessed with use cases. Everyone's been talking about use cases, I think, is one of the most important things to promote to workforces how to best adopt AI. But I think as individuals and as change managers, what really gets us excited about our work is helping to change people's mindsets, behaviors, workforce, their environment. And I think that passion, that area really lends well to use cases. I think we need to think about use cases because the technologists will come to the table and say it can do all these wonderful things, it can pass these tests, it can do this business process. The business leaders will be looking at it and saying, well, what are the outputs and what are the KPIs that it's able to achieve, and or what are the services that it's able to deliver faster to the market? We're the ones who need to be obsessed about the use cases, about saying this person can use it in this way, which will help them like this. And I think there's a lot of there's public prompt libraries out there. There's a lot of open forums, which you can look at, good YouTube channels. I'll avoid being too specific because I think there's so many out there and there's so many good ones that's worth having a look at and getting on board on. But yeah, getting obsessed with use cases and applying critical thinking, I think that's really important.
That's great. And from my experience, being comfortable testing things out and learning as you go makes a huge difference.
Yes, that prompt iteration, that I think it's a very good point. So, I mean, iteration is probably, it's the easiest with this technology than what it has been with others. And what I mean by that is like, you change your prompt, you hit go, and you see what happens. It's like, oh, it didn't work. I'll change it a bit here and then give that a go. So I think that's right. You probably tie that in a bit with an additional mindset piece, I think, there. And I think of experimenting as one of those pieces of mindset required for people to really excel in the digital age. No matter what the technology is, being able to look at something and say, how does it behave? Or I'll test this out, then I'll change this variable, see what happens. I'll change this again, see what happens.
Exactly. And that's how you learn and improve. Let's build on that and talk about structured learning. What learning path or courses do you recommend for change managers wanting to lift their AI capability?
There's not a lot I would recommend. I've said a lot of stuff out there that's not. I mean, and there's high quality stuff that's there for different needs, but is it really there for the need to accelerate or give a change manager the skills they need to reinvent and to accelerate in their role? Well, I think there's scattered stuff out there. There is an abundance of fundamentals learning out there, whether it be from Google, whether it be from just courses on Coursera or any of those sort of vendors. And I think that stuff's good, but it'll only get you so far. It's good because it will teach you the concepts of how these models behave, and that helps with the critical thinking stuff. And I think that's really important. But it's only going to get so far, because really you end up coming back from those courses. You sit down with a tool and you're looking at the chat window and you're like, well, now I know how it works a bit better, but is that really helping me? Is it practical skills? Not really. And so I have found that the actual vendor material, content, assets, and it's not always a course, by the way. So as an example, Anthropic puts out their, what's it? I can't even remember the name of it. Some sort of workbook. I think it might even be a PDF. But it sort of steps through and says, this is how you can use use your prompts in order to get it to do more complex things for you. So it's back to that point before about more complex tasks means that you get the models end up behaving in certain ways. And Anthropic's just very practical. They're like, well, when it behaves like this is how you identify it, and this is what you can do to overcome it. Super practical. Here's the failure modes that you're going to see in these models, and here's how you respond. They've even put together an Excel file that has a special Anthropic AI sort of call that it has, and you can learn and go through it like a workbook. So it's like an interactive workbook that you do. I think that everyone, whether you be change manager or otherwise, should be completing that. I think because you're having an interactive lesson, and the lesson is no jargon. It's just saying, look, let's just learn how to get these models to do what you want them to do, because that's what we're here for. OpenAI, I think, have also got some great things. They've also been implementing a whole study mode on their models, which I'm not sure if you've used this, but I mean, the boiled down version of it is it doesn't give you the answer. It's there to be your coach. It's there to be your tutor, and so it has that built into it. And it's not going to. Its goal is to help educate you. Its goal is not to give you all the answers and to be a chatbot. Brilliant tool, I think. Just a really brilliant application. So generally, I'll be saying it's good to build that generic skill set, but the concepts, the technical, I think that is important. But if it's a half-day course, then you've probably done as much as you should. Really aim for the applicable skills, the practical skills.
There's so much noise around AI training, so this advice will be really helpful. And I'll make sure all the resources are linked in the show notes. Are there any AI-focused podcasts or newsletters that you would recommend for ongoing development? And who do you recommend change managers follow on LinkedIn or X to stay across practical applied AI in change work?
Well, the LinkedIn question was a hard one. I sort of sat with that for a bit. I've got something to say about that. But I think there's a good chance that if you've got a network, if you've got LinkedIn with, 300 different connections on there, I reckon there's a good chance there's probably 10 to 20 people who are posting fairly regularly, and they're probably posting about how they're using AI. And you might even be lucky enough to have a couple of people that you've come into the vicinity with who are posting regularly with some good stuff. So I don't want to muddy the waters by saying here's the specific people. But look, if you Google it, you will find there are about 5 people who are out there as the real heavy hitters, and there's lots of others. So I don't think there's any need for me to muddy the waters with that. But I'll circle back and tick with that. In terms of podcasts and other assets, there's a weekly newsletter which I get emailed to me, if you can believe, a classic email newsletter. Was it AI TLDR or TLDR AI? I'm not sure. You'll have to have it. Might be TLDR.ai. Simple as it just gives you all the news. It flags when it's got sponsored content, which is good. I like to make sure I'm not just being sold to without much honesty. I'd say I've always been a fan of Reddit. I think Reddit continues to have some great posts on there about people testing things, sharing their prompts, talking about the new models that are out. I think that's great. In terms of podcasts, I'm going to mention three, but and I'll save my favorite for the third. So Hard Fork is one which I've found to be quite good. It's a is it weekly, I think, and it's very US centric, but it's a broader take on technology, on finance, on the AI world, and I find that's quite good. A more specific AI, but still quite broad and looking at it in terms of an industry and a sense of capabilities. Everyday AI, I quite like that one. Although I do miss quite a few because it is, as the name would suggest, every day. And yes, there is AI news every day, which is just insane to me.
That's full on.
But the one which, it's crazy stuff. The one which I really like is called Shell Game. Last year they had their first season, and I should have even mentioned the name of the person who makes it because I can't remember their name. The first season was all about their attempt to replace their entire life with an AI assistant. So people would call his phone number, and instead of him answering, it would be an AI of his voice, and has cooked into ChatGPT talking on his behalf. And it was just a ludicrous level of AI to try and it's thoroughly interesting. This year and this season is a reaction to Sam Altman and some other heavy hitters in the AI world who have been talking about what year will it be that we have the first billion-dollar startup with one person. So no employees, it's just one person and the rest is just AI running the whole business. And so he's sort of going, okay, let's do a startup, let's create a new business. And so this second season is just following a journalist who's a tech enthusiast, but not a super techie developer, just working out how to do it. Just hearing about agents, trying to set up agents, getting them to work. And so you hear these recordings of their first board meeting. It's like one human and all the other board members are all just AI agents. I think it's highly accessible. And again, it sort of links back to that idea of use cases because it puts color, it illustrates this whole technology into a more of a human world.
That's really interesting, and it shows what's possible, even if not all of it applies straight away. Thanks for sharing those examples, Kieran. And for our listeners, I'll make sure all the links are in the show notes.
Yeah. Do and reach out if you need the links after. The thing I was going to say about AI influencers, I think that there's a bit of a golden chalice that they're chasing towards of how do you make money out of AI. And I think there's a lot of that going on, especially in the YouTube world. And those that have got all the clicks tend to be ways in which to create things that will make money for you. And I can tell you what they're creating is AI slop factories. It's like, how do you create a YouTube channel where every day you can post new stuff and the script is written by AI, it's read out by AI voiceover, all the images are all AI, and the whole idea is to try and increase the amount of clicks that you get on it so that you can get it monetized and get money out of it. So I'd just say beware of some of those, because that judiciousness, that critical thinking about using it for tasks, to accelerate yourself rather than replace yourself. I don't know whether that ethical standard is there with most of those influencers.
That's a fair point. The reality is not everyone is approaching this with the same level of responsibility. We will have a chance to dig more into the ethics side later in part 2 of the podcast. Now, before we wrap part 1, let's look ahead at how AI is reshaping change roles in the job market. From a hiring perspective, what would you look for in a change manager leading an AI-related transformation? And what would you expect from them in their first 30 days?
Oh, that's a curveball. Okay. What do I look for? I haven't hired a change manager for I was probably 14 months and very happy with that, with the change manager we have come on board. I'd probably say I'm looking for similar things though, if we were to hire, which would be, so far there has been a lead from technology for everything AI, in terms of who do you look to be in charge of all this stuff? Chief Technology, Chief Information Officer. And who gets left behind? The workforce does. So well, what change managers really need to be good at is what they've always been good at: connecting with their stakeholders, figuring out who the right ones are and how to best approach them, communicating with clarity, with influence, connecting people, bringing the workforce along. So I think that remains as a very important thing. So being able to listen effectively, assess what's the right things, what's the most important things, and being able to communicate, again, with that sort of discerning ability. I think that remains to be very true, because bringing stakeholders on board and making sure that they feel involved and confident it remains a very important piece with AI, with change management in the AI world. A red flag for me would be if there's little interest or little use in AI that anyone's used so far. So what I mean by that is, it is critical that you are using AI and that you understand the core concepts.
That's helpful, Kieran. Hiring in AI era is still new for candidates and for hiring teams alike. So I'm sure many people will find this valuable. And just circling back to the first 30 days in the role, what would you expect from a change manager in those first couple of weeks?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think just the environment in which I've always worked in means that the first week is always a hard one. I mean, there's a lot of onboarding material, of course. So, but apart from that, it's like, well, you need to know who's who by that stage. But the first 30 days, really being able to lead something, but I'd say that's even less than 30 days. I think, like in this AI world, it's like, well, you need to have gotten set up, heard about the right assistants and agents that you've got access to, know what the tools are that you've got, and really applying it and using it. I mentioned at the top of our conversation that I sort of use that description of 4 sessions per day. Yeah, got to be doing that, but probably should be doing that in your first 14 days, not your first 30. So 30 days in, I think there should be a fair degree of autonomy, but I also don't think that my expectations have shifted that much, nor has the workforce expectation shifted, at least where I work, for what the first 30 days looks like from a performance perspective in this AI world. The only additional thing is I'd say, look, it should be a native user, but you know me, if I think it's important to walk the talk, and so if we're here to advocate for change and adoption of AI tech, well, heck, we're going to be. It starts here. You got to do it yourself. We shouldn't be going out there being salespeople of things that we don't believe in ourselves or that we haven't bought ourselves.
And that's a great point. Walking the talk as a native AI user early on sets a strong example. And with that, let's wrap up part 1 and move into part 2, where we get really practical with tools, examples, and applied use cases.
Thank you for listening to Change Bites. A key takeaway snapshot from this episode is available on the host's LinkedIn profile. Links to all resources mentioned are included in the podcast notes. Podcast updates are also shared via the Agile-Brainz LinkedIn page. Follow Change Bites to stay up to date with future episodes.